Edward shunted the last coaches back into their sidings. It had been a calm and mostly smooth day, but he didn't delude himself into thinking that all was well. Tensions were high, and it all stemmed from the big engines. Their morning strike did make a clear point on how they felt, but it was done in a very disruptive manner. Edward had come along to shunt their trains, and everything returned to normal, but he could tell that they still weren't satisfied. Edward left the yards and made his way to the sheds. He stopped on the turntable and felt very uncomfortable. 3 pairs of eyes were glaring at him in disgust. Gordon, James and Henry had been difficult before, but this was a line Edward never thought they would cross. "Filthy traitor," Gordon hissed, clearly the leader of this little gang. Edward was stunned. "Excuse me? You carry black wheels, Edward, acting so complacent during our strike." Edward wasn't sure what Gordon meant by black wheels, but knowing him, it was nothing pleasant. "You should have stood with us," James added. "Make yourself heard." "And sit around like a heap of scrap? Certainly not." "So you accept it?" Gordon huffed. "You'd rather degrade yourself to mere tank engine work?" "Considering I had been locked up in the sheds for God knows how long, Gordon, I'm thankful to have work of any kind, shunting or otherwise." "I'd thought you, of all engines, would know better. We are tender engines, not common tank engines who care little of their appearance. We are at the forefront of railways. We run the main line. Do you think people would take us seriously when they see us crawling through cramped, grimy sidings?" "I'm sure they would look past it if it still meant they had a train," Edward said. "Besides, what harm can a little dirt do to you?" "It's not the dirt," Henry spoke up. "We're just not built for those tiny sidings. It's not simple manoeuvring around, and we can so easily derail on the points. It's simply impractical." "That's putting it mildly," James muttered. "But it's correct," Gordon said. "Only someone like Thomas is suited for such conditions." Edward was astounded. "You're not suggesting the Fat Controller should just bring Thomas back? He has his own responsibility to take care of. He hasn't the time to fuss about here, you know that." "We didn't say that," Gordon snapped. "Thomas has earned his position, and by all means leave him to it. You must take note, however, that we've yet to have a permanent replacement." "Or we've had our lone shunters who come and go," James grunted. "You do realise this isn't the only yard in the bloody world, don't you?" Edward huffed, losing his patience. "You make it out as if the Fat Controller sends them away on purpose." "Isn't he?" Gordon questioned. "Take that more recent one. Easton was his name? He did wonderful in the yards. Cheeky but efficient. Fit for purchase, and what happened? He was sent away just like that." "Since you've clearly forgotten, Gordon, the Fat Controller sent him away after he stole Thomas's train and put his passengers in danger. Would you really trust someone like that to handle your coaches?" "Then he could have found another. Don't convince me there isn't at least one tank engine out there available to us." Edward took a deep breath. "Look, I don't deny the point you are all making. We need another tank engine, that much is true. However, there were better ways to make your point. You could have spoken to the Fat Controller at the station. You know he's there often. At the very least, you could have asked your crews to pass on the message." "We shouldn't have had to do that in the first place," James said. "We shouldn't have even had to do our strike. It was obvious the moment Thomas left that we needed another shunter, and that was ages ago. The Fat Controller clearly hasn't got his priorities sorted." "Precisely," Gordon agreed. If we need to tell the controller something so blatantly wrong, then we're well and truly hopeless." "I'm sorry, Edward," Henry puffed. Evidently he was the only one trying to be civil. "But we've been mistreated, and it's worrying you can't see that." Edward sighed. Their minds were made up, and he knew he couldn't break through them. Not by talking, anyway. Tired and miserable, he backed away from the engines and made his way to the carriage shed. The coaches would be much better company.